Game TV radio, on YouTube. You name it, we'll be there. We're everywhere. We're stalking you. So we started spring practice today. Woohoo! There we go. What we hope will be the start of a successful 2026 football season. A long way to go, obviously, because we're just sitting on March 4th. And, you know, again, we see as much as you can see. The media's out there. You see a lot of jumping jacks, some calisthenics, little group work. Nothing, again, no football program or NFL team is ever going to let you sit there and see anything that you can actually put out there that would give someone else a competitive advantage. So what we're saying is not a criticism of Shane Beamer or South Carolina. Everyone does it. We do have some fun with it and say, oh, yeah, you got to watch some jumping jacks, some stretching. Always good. Maybe a little group work. But, you know, all teams give you that little peek, the little taste, a little, you know, the little eyeball through the door hole or whatever. And South Carolina does the same thing. NFL, they would give you, what was it, the first 45 minutes? I'm trying to remember now. I forget, it was something like first half hour, first 45 minutes, whatever it was. And it was, again, not a whole lot of anything. That's okay. You don't expect to get a whole lot of anything. If I'm a head coach, I wouldn't give you a whole lot of anything either. So the important thing is spring practice has started. And we're at this point where, again, the top three things, and this really matters for what we've seen here in the last, couple of weeks. The top three things we want to see in spring practice is nobody get hurt. That's number one. Number two, nobody get hurt. Number three, say it with me, nobody get hurt. That's where we're at, man. It's that's the important thing. Obviously, Kendall Browse putting in a new offense. New offensive line coach, Coach Clem, getting started, and what we hope will be a revamping of the offensive line. So we will talk about that through the spring for as much as we can. But all of it is just, again, this is the kind of little signpost that gets us going for a new season of football. Hope, anticipation, confidence, wherever your level is, it's here. No spring game. We've discussed that, obviously. But, you know, getting your practices in, getting everything put in place to get you ready for the upcoming 2026 season. Yes, it's a vital season for South Carolina football, for Shane Beamer's tenure, for a lot of things. You know, they've been on the roller coaster the last 4 years. It'd be nice to jump off of it, get back to winning, get back to a bowl game, hopefully maybe shock the world and have a one-of-a-kind memorable season. We'll see. A lot of pieces are in place here, right? There are. There are also question marks, obviously. Defensively, you're bringing back one, not arguably, it's true, one of the best edge pass rushers in America, and Dylan Stewart. You hope Caleb Herring on the other side or anyone else can bring you the kind of pass rush duo that we saw 2 years ago with Stewart and Kyle Kennard. You've got some guys coming back on the interior of the defensive line. You've also added some pieces that make you feel good for depth and rotation like we've seen the last couple of years. Look, defense wasn't a problem last year. It wasn't. You know, all your linebackers are coming back, young guys last year who didn't have a lot of starting experience, now have a year under their belt, and you hope that room will be better. Even last year, look, they had their moments where they were really good and moments of struggle, and it's just part of a bunch of first-year starters, you know, learning on the job. You had no Debo Williams, you know, no Demetrius Knight. You had a bunch of, you know, different stages of their careers. None of them had started, but a lot of athleticism, and we saw some good moments and some, well, that's got to get better moments. Defensive backfield, you are replacing some guys. You're replacing, you know, obviously DQ Smith, and you're replacing Jalen Kilgore and Brandon Cisse. Now, you have some folks who can step up. You added in the portal. And you always feel good that the secondary is going to hold its own. Offense is where your problem was last year. Defense, thumbs up. Special teams, thumbs up. Offense, big double thumbs down. Just was. But now you brought in an offensive coordinator with a real rep. Absolutely. And a guy we've seen on resume who has done really, really good things with a dual threat quarterback. You got some important pieces coming back in the wide receiver room. We'll see where the running backs go. Had a couple guys in Fuller and Howell. Again, youngins who got a chance to play last year who have high ceiling and ability. But it all is going to stop and start with the offensive line. Can the offensive line step up and at least hold their own, at least be solid? Because that's a heck of a lot better than it was last year. And, maybe a new system of offense, and a new system of teaching the offensive line, and a new system of how you go about your pass protections, your run blocking schemes. All those things might be what can combine, plus with some guys coming in the portal who have had a lot of career starts. Offensive line can be a plus instead of a minus. And if all that can work out, you've got a dual threat quarterback with a ton of ability. We saw it 2 years ago. And if you want to go glass half full, you can say, okay, if your defense can just continue to be as good as it's been, and your special teams can continue to be as good as they've been, and the offense, not even a giant leap, just a leap to average in a lot of metrics, all of a sudden, you're looking at a winning football team that will go bowling, and who knows what if some things go their way. But again, we're a long way from that, obviously. But since we're starting spring practice, let's do it. And what the heck? Look, I'll be honest with you. We've had so much gloom and doom to talk about. Let's be a little glass half full. Why not? Let's look at the possibilities on the positive side. I know it's been a rough almost 15 months of fandom here in Columbia regarding Gamecock men's athletics, but let's be a little bright and cheery. What the hell? Why not? Be a little happy. Spring practice is here. The possibilities, if things could go South Carolina's way, what could happen? And again, I know we've seen 2 injuries here in the last few weeks that kind of dim some enthusiasm, but Jakarius Peak, the word is, we'll be back in September. And losing Josiah Thompson stinks, but here's my thing, just being honest, I didn't hear anybody guarantee Josiah Thompson the starting right tackle gig. No one. Nobody. The hope was maybe Thompson could, transition his way to right tackle from left tackle. Some can, some can't. It is different. Hand placements, all this other stuff. People who coach it and have played it will tell you it's not as simple as, hey, dude, you were on the left side, go line up on the right side. So there's no guarantee Josiah Thompson was going to be the starter. There was going to be competition. Now, whatever the lower body injury was for Josiah Thompson, maybe that's what hindered him last year and hindered his performance. And maybe after everybody's sitting around looking at it and talking about it and getting opinions from medical experts and all these other things, Thompson and his family and his inner circle said, let's get this taken care of and come back ready to, kick some tail in 2027. Okay. So if Pete can come back and somebody can emerge at right tackle, things could settle in, we hope. There's a lot of depth, a lot of guys who have played a lot of snaps. And you've added some interesting freshmen on the offensive line. Again, playing freshmen on the O-line in the SEC, doesn't always work out well. It's a mixed bag. But you got a lot of possibilities in that room. And you have a new offensive line coach in Coach Clem. He's worked hand in hand with Kendall Briles over the years. So all those things we hope will be good news. Kendall Briles' style of offense, we look at it and we say, wow, if KJ Jefferson can thrive in this offense, Lenora Sellers, who has a higher ceiling than KJ Jefferson ever had, should be able to thrive in this offense. And again, Lenoris isn't a youngin' anymore. We're looking at year 3 as a starter, year 4 in the program. So you're hoping all this stuff comes together and we'll see offense a hell of a lot better than we saw last year. Just saying. So we'll find out where it goes. But this is, for me, this is where you get all optimistic in the first day of spring and look at all these things in the positive and say, whoo, here we go. And Nick Harbor this year, what can Nick Harbor do? We saw it more and more as last year went along. Even in a season where the offense was putrid, Nick Harbor made some plays. And Nick Harbor started to make more plays. And he started to get some of that rawness off of him that we've seen of a guy that's never played wide receiver before. What's the possibilities of Nick Harbor in this offense? We'll see. Jaden Sellers, as a freshman, started to do some things in the slot last year. What can Sellers do now with a year under his belt? Donovan Murph, a dude who should have been in high school last year. You know, we saw a few brief moments of Donovan Murph. What can Donovan Murph be next year or this upcoming season? Other wide receivers in that room we really didn't see a lot of because, again, a lot of good freshmen with a lot of ability. So again, that's what the first day of spring's for. Going, possibilities here. So, again, we shall see. And we'll let you know whatever we know. We got, folks all over the place who are watching this thing and watching the practices and hearing things from people who see the practices once the media leaves. And we'll just, we'll get the words and nuggets and information and whatever we can gather and throw it out to you as much as we can. In that vein, Jordan Kay from the state newspaper at 4:30 will give us his thoughts on the first day of spring practice. We will get to Jordan, again, 4:30, so we will talk with him. We have sound, obviously. We played most of Shane's yesterday. There are a couple things we'll get to that we did not get to play. Coach Maneri talking to the media today. We'll get you some of that stuff coming up next. Of course, Paul and his crew taking on Charleston Southern tonight, coming off a bludgeoning of USC Upstate. The game was 3-3 in the fifth, and then South Carolina just started scoring runs and won 12-3. Again, it's a game you should win. It's in the midweek. We've seen some really good programs lose in the midweek, though. But South Carolina, it's been underwhelming so far this season, and a midweek victory over USC Upstate doesn't make everybody go, all right, here we go, baby. Here comes the run. But it's a game you should win. But if you do lose it, there's more question marks about where you're at as a program in 2026. So, good win last night. We'll hear from Coach Maneri, and, of course, they go right back at it tonight against Charleston Southern. You can hear it right here on the game in Columbia and our affiliate Myrtle Beach, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch. All right, we'll come back and we'll discuss baseball next here on the postgame show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us as we are going to roll this baby up until 6 here on the Game Network, and at the Game TV radio on YouTube. Post-game show. Baseball tonight, Charleston Southern, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch with Carolina. Coming off a nice win over over USC Upstate 12-3. Coach Maneri talking to the media today. First thoughts were about getting a W.
Well, honestly, I'm not thinking about SEC play yet. We've got 5 more games before we play down in Florida, and this is such a humbling sport. I've learned that over a long career. These young kids, they don't understand it until they get their nose bloodied. You take somebody lightly, they're going to beat you. Any of these 5 games we had this week, we could get beat. This team. You saw the numbers this pitcher had before this game, and we did a good job against him. He kept us off balance there for 3 or 4 innings after the first inning. He did a good job, and then we finally got to him again. We've lost some games that we probably would love to have back, and so I don't want the kids looking beyond the very next challenge. And the very next challenge is a really tough one. Charleston Southern, what are they, 10-1 or 11-1 or something like that, right? So, and listen, 2 games in 1 week, it's going to tax your midweek pitching. And we don't have a lot of arms left down there in the bullpen, so we're going to have to play a really good game tomorrow. We're going to be sitting in here after the game talking about something we don't really want to have to talk about. So I don't want them really looking ahead. I understand why you asked the question, but the way that you build momentum, the way you build confidence is by taking it 1 game at a time. I think the kids are proud of the way they bounced back tonight. And we had more hits tonight than we had the whole weekend against Clemson. Now, of course, the quality of the pitching isn't what, Clemson's got one of the best pitching staffs in the country. So, but we needed to do the job tonight, and we did. And I'm glad for the kids. They felt good. They had fun. And now we need to come out tomorrow and play with the same intensity.
Yeah, Clemson leading the country in whip going into that series. So, yeah, Clemson, good pitching. There's no doubt. And look, no offense, USC Upstate, they don't have the same quality of pitching. But still, win's a win. Your bats got going. And I've always said this, and we always have this conversation, is, look, confidence is confidence, man. Who cares who you whip up on? If you go out there and get like 3 knocks in a game, you walk off the field feeling good about you. Yeah, you can say, that pitcher wasn't as good as the pitching we faced against Clemson. Okay. But you still felt good that, you were successful. And that carries into the next game. Seeing the ball barrel off the bat and, seeing a shot for extra bases or a nice crisp single or whatever, and you round first, it's a good feeling, and it builds confidence. And when you go into the next game, you got a little bit more going on. You feel better at the plate. Because, baseball, look, we always talk about these stupid cliches. Hitting 300 is failing 7 times. That's baseball. And it's what you got to deal with, and you got to get it in your skull. So however you build the confidence against whichever pitcher, who cares? Just get some confidence built. Who knows where it's going to carry you? We were talking this today upstairs about something. That thing above your neck is it can be your most powerful ally or your biggest enemy. If that thing above your neck feels like, getting a little confidence going, nothing wrong with that. Now, here's Coach Maneri talking about his freshmen, and Craddock is still, if you look at those numbers, they're still good. Like everybody, the Clemson series took him back a little bit, but Craddock, the freshman, so far, so good.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't sleep well Sunday night. I really thought he had fractured his hand. He had gotten hit right here on the 5th metacarpal, and unfortunately I experienced that as a player once myself and broke my hand when I got hit by a pitch there, and it was really sore. but we x-rayed it on Monday when we got back, and thank goodness it was a negative x-ray, so there's no fracture. He just had a bad bruise on his hand. But that's not why he didn't play tonight. He's actually under the weather. He wasn't even at the ballpark today because he's been under the weather. He actually wasn't feeling great. I didn't even know that he wasn't feeling good all weekend, and it just took a turn for the worse. And so he's at home recuperating, and hopefully he'll be back soon.
So with Craddock, look, he's been hitting, obviously, and this team offensively has had its issues. And you look at last night, Logan Sutter, another home run. Sutter, after that terrible start he had that first weekend, has really hit the ball well. So your thought process is going to have to be, I guess, and again, Paul Maneri is a much better head baseball coach than I am. But your thought process is you look at the batting averages and you look at guys like Talmadge LeCroy and KJ Scobie have had good starts. Reese Moore has had a good start. You look at, obviously, Will Craddock, the freshman. Logan Sutter is now up to 286 after his real slow start. So you got to kind of look at, okay, where are the hot hands? Patrick Evans has started to get it going a bit. He had a nice game yesterday against USC Upstate. So it's just the idea of, okay, the guys who are hitting, maybe because you're looking for something. So you look at who right now who's hot, put them in the lineup. And I know there's some guys that are struggling. You got to play them through struggles. Like Bo Hollins. I mean, obviously hasn't been healthy. And in 10 total games, Hollins is only hitting $152. It's been a struggle, but Bo Hollins is healthy. You saw last year he can contribute offensively. Ethan Lozama is a guy who comes in with a big rep. It's been a mixed bag for him. Tyler Bach has struggled after a really good start early. Aaron Jameson, down to 200. But so at the end of the day, if you're Paul Maneri, you see, okay, who's actually hitting? And we're going to definitely put them in the lineup, and let's start with that. And obviously, if Craddock is healthy, starts to feel better, you want to get Craddock back in the lineup because he's been your best overall hitter in some ways. Best batting average. Just a little bit ahead of Talmadge LeCroy. And the Talmadge LeCroy story is great. I mean, a guy who struggled offensively the last couple of years, has been sizzling. 381, almost 600 on base. Almost 500 on base, almost 600 slugging. It's just been good. It's been absolutely good. We'll hear more from Coach Maneri here on the show as he talked to the media today against Charleston Southern tonight here on the Game in Columbia, and our affiliate in Myrtle Beach, 6:15. Our coverage gets cranking. Basketball last night, senior night. Tough go for South Carolina against Tennessee. We're going to get into that next. Talk about the game. Talk about the atmosphere, the future. We got a lot to talk about when it comes to men's basketball. We'll get to that next on the post-game show. Do not forget, because I almost forgot to tell you not to forget. We got sweet deals. Go to 1075thegame.com. We have sweet deals. Our featured sweet deal right now is Columbia YMCA, 50% off a 6-month membership. So go check that out. Again, it's 1075thegame.com. Click on sweet deals. Come back, talk some men's hoops from last night here on the post-game show on the Game Network, and at the Game TV Radio on YouTube. All right, Crescent Construction Grand Slam contest. Gamecock hitter goes yard with the bases loaded. You go in right now, it's what, $325? Just go to 1075thegame.com to register to the Crescent Construction Grand Slam contest. If there is a Grand Slam, the next time we have the morning show, the early game, we will draw a winner. It's that simple. Like if it was a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, obviously we do it on Monday. If it's like a midweek game, we do it the next day. So, again, 1075thegame.com. Click on the little flippy thingy. Click on the Crescent Construction Grand Slam contest and register. It's very simple. All right, so South Carolina last night lost to Tennessee 78-59. It kind of got away early. And even though, Tennessee was missing their leading scorer, still the Vols, 54% from the floor. Tennessee didn't have to shoot threes. They didn't. And we're going to get to all that in a minute. Because it was, man, when your opponent drops 15 dunks on your head, that's tough. Tennessee, 15 dunks, 13 by two dudes. South Carolina on the interior, obviously defensively, has struggled all year, and they struggled big time last night. Tennessee at the rim was 23 of 29. Again, the two bigs combined, 16 of 17. That's Para and Estrella. It was a dunk contest. It was a dunkathon. And South Carolina was powerless to stop it. Did not have the players defensively in the paint to do anything with Tennessee. Para went 10 of 14, 8 rebounds, scored 20. Estrella came off the bench, scoring 22, 10 of 13. Those two guys combined 20 of 27. And again, they combined for 13 dunks, and they combined to go 16 of 17 at the rim. You got to do a lot to make up for dealing with that. And look, we need to take a second and give Meechie Johnson some love. 3 years in the program. Meechie left and came back after that season at Ohio State last year. Meechie last night, 6 of 13 from the floor, 2 of 6 from 3. Got to the line 10 times, only hit 6 of them. Meechie's usually more efficient from the stripe. 4 assists for Meechie. Grabbed a couple of rebounds. And this season has been the most consistent for Meechie Johnson. There hasn't been as many, oh my God, nights. There hasn't been as many, I can't believe he just took that shot situations. Meechie still will every now and then hoist one where you go, probably wasn't a good idea. Maybe try to force some things. But to be fair, if I'm Meechie Johnson on this team in 2025, 2026, I'm like, I had a bleep with it. I'm just going to go try to do it myself. Meechie on the season, it was his best year shooting the ball from the floor at 42%. Again, that's not gangbusters, but Meechie much better than he's been in his career. First time in his career, he's over 40% shooting from the floor. So Meechie improved from the floor to 42%. 33% of his threes, that's the second best in his career. Last year, he was better at 36 in a limited time at Ohio State, but 33% is best as a Gamecock. Got to the line more than he's ever got in his career. And that's really where the change is. To me, 7 times a game, pretty much, Meechie got to the charity stripe, made 80% of his free throws. Also, assist-wise, best year in his career, 4.3. And despite the fact that he had the ball in his hands a ton, only 2.2 turnovers a game, it was a good season, and it gets lost in the overall not good that this season has been. Now, would Meechie probably be better off if they had a real point guard to move Meechie to the 2? Yeah. Would Meechie be better off if he had, South Carolina had a true number one scorer, and Meechie wouldn't have to be that guy? Because that's really, you would like for him not to have to be that guy. And on a good team, Michi wouldn't be the leading scorer, wouldn't have this much usage or have the ball in his hands so much. But Michi Johnson, it was a solid season. It really was. Michi was much more consistent this year, much more under control. And it's just a shame that others didn't step their game up to go with Michi, and maybe we'll be having a different conversation how this year has turned out. And with Michi Johnson, again, if you look at the game logs, after Michi had that 2 for 13 against Missouri in that loss, Michi was much better the rest of the season. He was. And, you know, for some reason it seemed like, I don't know, but when it came to, you know, distributing the basketball, cutting down on turnovers, Michi was better from that point on. If you look at the whole season as a snapshot, it was his best year. So we just want to give him some props in the season he had. Again, was he miscast? Sure. But he did the best he could in a situation that, well, look, we say this a lot on this show. Are guys in the best position to succeed? Are you asking guys to do what they can't do, or it's probably not the best idea that they do? Are you asking them to do too much? Are you putting them in a position to succeed? And really, look, because of the way this thing turned out, Michi had to be the player that he was, but he really shouldn't be in that position. Michi's not a true point guard. Michi shouldn't be your number one scoring option. He shouldn't be. But at the end of the day, Michi had to do what Michi had to do, and he did the best he could in that spot. And I want to give him his props for being much more consistent. Because if Michi was like he was in the past, who knows what this thing would have turned out. So, Michi Johnson, thumbs up, man. Got honored at senior night last night as well. And we'll get to that here in a little bit. After the game, Lamont Paris talking to the media. First of all, Tennessee, with all those dunks and all that success at the rim, bottom line is South Carolina defensively just couldn't handle Tennessee's pick and roll. That's really what it came down to.
Yeah, no, they were effective with it. You know, inexplicably a couple of times we played it passive versus aggressive. You know, honestly, that was the key to everything was aggressive versus not very aggressive. I mean, we've talked about being aggressive to impact the ball handler. That way he doesn't get downhill to throw the lob. And then with another non-shooting big, I mean, I don't know how many times they got the lob out of the actual ball screen. I don't want to be misled by that. It was enough, but I don't want to be misled by that. So certainly we could have cleaned some things up there. There's no doubt. But, you know, the biggest part, you look at aggression, they got a guy that goes over the back, and it's an out over the back call late in the game, and he pursued the ball as if he would never eat again if he did not get that ball. So that I don't know what there's not an answer for that other than to meet that aggression with more aggression. I think, I mean, in my life and my experiences, it's the only way. But that was, you know, by and large, you know, 18 second chance points. They're good at it. I get it. But all in all, even with all that, the things that we did, if somehow 18 was 6, right? You have a manageable number to work off of in terms of just the overall points that you gave up.
Yeah, I mean, look, Tennessee is the top offensive rebounding team in America. They get it on the offensive glass. Last night, they had only 11 offensive rebounds, and to be quite honest, well, they didn't have a whole lot of misses to chase when you're shooting 54% from the floor and you're dropping 15 dunks and scoring 23 hoops at the rim. Probably not a whole lot of offensive rebounds to go get. And look, last night, the other thing, it was senior night, and a lot of guys getting honored. Look, Mike Sharverjam's parents flew halfway around the world for his senior night, and that's cool. Really is. And some of these guys, you know, they've only been in South Carolina for 1 year. They had a chance to have their senior night, like a Kobe Knox as well. Miles Stude's been around for 3 years. He got his senior night experience. Norton Kapik, who knocked down 3 threes had senior night. It was, and the sad part is the building wasn't that packed, and I totally understand why not. It's been rough. Last couple of years have been really deflating when you come off a trip to the NCAA tournament, and then if South Carolina loses their next two, it'll be back-to-back 20-loss seasons, and really seasons that didn't look too promising almost from the jump. And last night, when you're looking at a pretty empty arena for senior day, what does that tell you if you're Jeremiah Donati, the athletic director? How much you take that into account when you're making a decision on the future of your head basketball coach? And we've talked about this. And I've said this and I'll continue to say it. The situation with Carolina men's basketball is bigger than the coach. It's about commitment with resources and financial commitment. It's one of two sports in college athletics that generates revenue, that makes profit. And again, if it's just me, and if I had a bunch of businesses and only two make profit, you're doggone sure I'm going to invest in both of those to maximize my profits, especially if those two have to pay for the rest of my businesses. And so that's really the number one conversation. Then number two, if you're Jeremiah Donati and you see what happened here 2 years ago when Lamont made it to the NCAA tournament, second in the SEC, school record for wins, all the greatness that was year two, you say, if I give this guy just the average amount of resources that every other team has in the SEC, can this guy get us back to that place consistently, or at least sniffing around it and make some tournaments and things of that nature? That's really the question. And then if you are going to go that route, now you've got to sell that to the people who are writing you large checks. And we'll talk more about it on the other side, and we'll also have the vault. It is a post-game show with Terry Ford. Appreciate you hanging out here on The Game Network, and at The Game TV Radio on YouTube. Oh, time to open up the vault for March 4th. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us. Real quick before I forget, because I'll forget that I forgot. Spring Golf Classic is back. It's Friday, April 3rd at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia, featuring Saki's Morning Libations Bar to get you started. Then the world-famous onion sausage, provided by the Lexington Gamecock Club. And the golf gun is back. So much fun. $400 a team. Call Charwood, 803-755-2000. Press 2 to register. That's simple. Good times. Again, at Charwood for the Spring Golf Classic, April the 3rd. All right, so the vault opens up, and, again, every now and then some old school stuff's interesting. 1962, get this, Wilt Chamberlain of the Philadelphia Warriors. Remember, he just had 100 points in a game earlier this week. He set that record playing in Hershey against the Knicks. Well, Wilt Chamberlain on this day in 1962 registers his 5th straight 50-point game and sets a single-season scoring record with over 3,900 points. The guy was just ahead of his time. He was a freak. Just a freak. Everything I've ever heard, the history I've watched, a little bit of the highlights, because I wasn't around for Wilt. Just heard. 1968, Joe Frazier wins the vacant New York World Heavyweight title by beating Buster Mathis. Of course, Joe Frazier was the heavyweight champion. Beat Muhammad Ali in Madison Square Garden, then lost to Ali 2 times afterwards. And when he was champion after beating Ali, then he took a whooping from George Foreman. And Foreman took the title from Frazier. But on this day in 1968, he won the vacant New York World Heavyweight title. And here's my thing. If it's New York, how can it be a World Heavyweight title? How can New York have their own World Heavyweight title? Of course, this was 1968, obviously. They don't have the New York World Heavyweight title anymore. I don't believe. This was sad, man. This was just so sad. This day in 1990, Hank Gathers, one of 2 Division I players to lead the nation in scoring and rebounding in the same season, dies after collapsing during Loyola Marymount's West Coast Conference tournament game against Portland. Gathers was 23. Gathers had a heart condition that they had been taking care of and monitoring and things of that nature, and Gathers wanted to play, and so everything was set up for him to play, and unfortunately this happened. It was sad, man. It was just so sad. His teammate, Bo Kimball, because Gathers was left-handed. I'll never forget in the NCAA tournament that year, Loyola Marymount got to the Elite Eight or the Sweet 16 with Paul Westhead as their coach. And Bo Kimball, his teammate, in honor of Gathers, would shoot some free throws left-handed because Gathers, again, was left-handed. It was just a sad, sad story. Sad story. This day, 2006, little tennis, Rafael Nadal ends top-ranked Roger Federer's 56-match hardcourt winning streak by beating him in Dubai. You think about this for a minute. The run of what we've seen in men's tennis, and if you're into men's tennis, you're going to go, yeah, Tara, it's too bad none of these guys are American. Because if they're American, we have a different conversation. Because, again, it's not a criticism. We're patriotic like everybody else when it comes to sports. We like our people better. It's okay. You can respect others who aren't American for their skills, but we have more feels for Americans. You had Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, you've had Novak Djokovic, and now you see what Carlos Alcaraz is doing. It's a heck of a run in men's tennis for high-level dudes who are going to go down as very, very special players in the history of the sport. It seems like that's where Alcaraz is going. He's young. He's got to stay healthy and stay interested. 2 of the toughest things in tennis, staying healthy and staying interested. We'll see. I mean, look, Bjorn Borg, you want to go back to old school 80s. Bjorn Borg was, won 5 Wimbledons, 5 French Opens, and Borg was like 26 years old and just got bored and left the sport. He was like, I've won a lot, made a good amount of dough. I'm tired of all this training and killing myself, and I'm just bored. I want to go do other stuff now. So again, Alcaraz has to fight off that tendency because, again, it's a solo individual sport. It's not a team sport. It's a lot of solo individual grinding. He just might go at some point. Yeah, to hell with it. Or he might just keep rolling like Djokovic or Nadal or Federer, who played into their late 30s. His injuries took out Nadal and also Federer. Djokovic has had some injury issues the last couple years, but he's still hanging in there, man. He played in the finals with the Australian, I do believe, and got beat by Alcaraz. Anyway, 2013, Gonzaga gets to the top of the AP Top 25 for the first time in school history. They were 29-2 at the time. And Gonzaga obviously has become one of the great mid-major stories in college basketball history. Been to 2 Final Fours, I believe 2 championship games under Mark Few. Everything was started by a guy named Dan Fitzgerald and then handed off to Don Munson, who handed it off to Mark Few, and look what Gonzaga is now. Also 2013, Brittany Griner scores a Big 12 single-game record, 50 points in her final regular season game at Baylor, leading the Bears to a 98-50 win over Kansas State. 2015, Russell Westbrook becomes the first player since Michael Jordan to have 4 consecutive triple-doubles, and the first since Jordan that year to have back-to-back triple-doubles of at least 40 points. Look, Westbrook is one of the greatest stat stackers you're ever going to see. He just is. Great stat stacker. Is he a guy you can win a championship with? No, because he needs the ball. And he's going to hold the ball and occupy the ball. And it's hard to run great offense or do a lot of things you need to do to win a championship when one guy's going to dribble, and occupy the ball, and other guys are just standing around waiting to see what he's going to do. But Westbrook, a phenomenal stat stuffer. There's no doubt about it. And obviously a no doubt Hall of Famer. All right, there you go. Kicked it through the vault for today, March 4th. 4 o'clock hour. We'll pop back, continue our conversation about men's basketball and where that program will be going moving forward. The season's only got most likely 2 games left in it. So we'll get into that and also spin back to spring practice for South Carolina as it got started today. It is a post-game show with Terry Ford. Jordan K., bottom of the hour, 4:30, by the way, from the state, as we'll talk about spring practice with Jordan coming up. So if you're not feeling like you used to feel, if you're a guy, you're getting older, and you're frustrated, you're scared, you're mad, you're angry, you're stressing over the fact you aren't who you used to be, it might just be something simple. Could be low testosterone or something of that nature. It's one way to find out. Go to the Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Make the call, 803-875-MENS. You go in. It's a free confidential consultation with Dr. Dan and the staff. They'll listen to your story. You'll get a free testosterone test. And if you are having low T troubles, they'll put you on a program specifically designed for you, no one else but you, to get you back to being yourself again. Feel like you. Call 803-875-MENS. The Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Go and just tell them your story and see if they can help you out. Men's Clinic of South Carolina. Post-game show. Hour number 2. Terry Ford, appreciate you being with us as we roll till 6. 6:15 baseball here on the game in Columbia and also Myrtle Beach. South Carolina, Charleston Southern. Charleston Southern's lost one game all year. They're 10-1. Offensively, they hit for a high average. They get on base at a high clip. They don't hit for a ton of power. So offensively, kind of a little bit like what USC Upstate was yesterday. High batting average, high on base percentage, not a lot of power. But Charleston Southern, if you look at the stats, less power than USC Upstate. So that is tonight, again, 6:15 first pitch, 6:30. 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch here on the game in Columbia and Myrtle Beach. All right, so we got spring practice cooking. Jordan K., bottom of the hour, 4:30, will give us his thoughts as day one starts up. Our buds at Gamecock Central had some observations from the first day of practice. Wes Mitchell. And again, you see a lot of position group stuff and, again, you see a lot of stretching and a lot of calisthenics, just like every other school and any other NFL team does. Wes did bring up, it was good to see Travion Robertson back coaching on the field after everything that Robertson went through with that car accident of last year. And even Wes says, keeping in mind that we were only watching stretches and drill work, so anyone that stood out is more about how they look physically. Jazavian Currents, according to Wes, very tall, long arms, moves well like a lot of people expected. Edge Julian Walker from Dutch Fork. Wes is like, this dude looks massive. He's maybe even added more weight since he arrived in January. He absolutely has the size to play this year and has the look of someone who could be both a pass rusher and a run stopper at edge and maybe even ultimately see some time at a 3-technique defensive tackle depending on how big he ultimately gets. Now, again, we'll see what happens with Walker. We saw Dylan Stewart be a huge contributor his freshman year, but as high as Walker is looked at, Stewart was looked at even higher coming out of high school. So we'll see with Julian Walker. He's kind of a wild card, right? We're looking at Caleb Herring of Tennessee as the player who can take the edge spot we feel like has the best chance across from Dylan Stewart. And again, Herring last year had 5 sacks in not full-time pass rush opportunities at Tennessee. So again, the thought is with Herring, he's shown the ability to put a quarterback on the ground with more snaps and starting and regular work. Could he, tighten up the other parts of his game and be a real weapon and will make you pay if you double and triple and chip Dylan Stewart and all that. So anyway, we'll see what Julian Walker, what happens with him. Freshman defensive tackle Aiden Harris, another guy, significantly bigger and more physically developed than Wes thought. Wes says, I saw him in person last spring and summer. He certainly added some muscle. He said, not surprisingly, transfer offensive lineman Kojo Poku, who we're looking at as a guard, starting guard most likely, if everything plays itself out, is massive and he blots out the sun. And he said Poku moves very well for a guy his size. So that's just some of the thoughts from Wes. Also, some recruits at Carolina's targeting were on campus to watch practice as well, like Somerville's 4-star wide receiver Jaden Kelly Murray was there. Also, LeVay Penny from the class of 2028, a linebacker. Amari Fountain, South Carolina defensive back commit, recently moved up to a borderline 5-star, was also at practice. Other teams are still chasing Amari because no one gives up. Who cares if you're verbal? Nobody cares. So Amari on campus, a good sign if you're South Carolina. So some of the notes that Wes had from the first day of spring practice. Again, we'll talk to Jordan K., 4:30 from the state, and get his observations of practice. Players also talked today. If we don't have any sound for that this afternoon, we'll definitely get it for you tomorrow. Among the players speaking was Lenore Sellers. I circle it back to basketball. Again, last night was a tough go for South Carolina. Losing to Tennessee, 78-59. Again, the Volunteers, they lived at the South Carolina rim. 15 dunks, 23 of 29 at the rim. South Carolina just looked helpless on defense against the Tennessee Bigs. So it was a fight all night. And here is Lamont Paris talking to the media and discussing just Tennessee is very aggressive. Look, Rick Barnes has been to 2 Elite Eights in a row. His teams play hard. They play aggressive. They're rabid at the on the backboards, especially the offensive glass. So Tennessee being uber aggressive is not a shock. Here is Lamont Paris talking about his squad just not being aggressive enough.
No, I mean, to me, that's part of aggression. I mean, right? If I can't be aggressive with my words and make you not duck me in really hard. I can't be aggressive with my words and stop you from pushing me in my back. So I need to be aggressive with my body. I need to be aggressive with my physicality in order. It was the only really thing that we talked about on the board, that nothing else in this game could possibly matter. There's no way that they could make or we could make enough shots to that physicality was not going to be what ultimately made the difference in the game. It just was, we knew that. In some games we've done a pretty good job of it. Other games we haven't, like Florida. I thought we at times we did a pretty good job in Florida, even though we gave up offensive rebounds. But some of the duck-in defense and whatnot was better. But, this one we just didn't have as much. It was physical and aggressive. We just didn't have enough physicality and aggression.
Yeah, especially to match like Tennessee, because, again, Tennessee is so aggressive. That's one of the Volunteers' calling cards. And again, they didn't have really their go-to scorer last night in a way that might have hurt South Carolina and helped Tennessee, because Tennessee then is concentrating on getting the ball to their bigs and really doing even more attacking of South Carolina's weaknesses, because then, Jacoby Gillespie will be your best offensive player, but Gillespie only took 9 shots last night, was 3 of 9, missed all 4 of his threes, only had 8 points. Did dish 12 assists because all he was doing is they're running the pick and roll, right? That's what Tennessee's doing. Jacoby Gillespie and one of the bigs, Akpara or Estrella, and they just run the pick and roll, the big rim runs. Old Jacoby Gillespie just throws up a lob, the big catches it, and either throws it down right away, catches it, comes back down, goes back up, and dunks it. It might have been the easiest 12 assists Jacoby Gillespie ever had. So, in a way, as screwy as it sounds, Tennessee not having who has become their go-to guy here lately, freshman Nate Ament, might have really worked to Tennessee's advantage, because then they got, again, their interior guys involved. And those guys both scored over double their scoring averages, because they just caught the ball and dunked it. So, no Ament last night might have worked out to Tennessee's advantage in that win. And we talked about, again, not the biggest crowd in the world for senior day or senior night. And just the atmosphere was, And we talked about, if you're Jeremiah Donati, what do you think of the arena? What do you think of the lack of butts in the seats? How much does that fall into your decision about Lamont Paris? And I think that, and I understand this, that Jeremiah Donati might just be putting a lot of value in what happened here 2 years ago when, Donati comes in and sees the support financially, the roster building money given to Lamont Paris a couple of years ago, and Paris ended up building a team to go to the NCAA tournament, finishing second in the SEC, getting wins over top 10 Kentucky, top 10 Tennessee. And maybe if you're Jeremiah Donati, you're going, okay, he did that and we gave him change out of our cup holder in the university vehicle. What happens if we start giving him more money? And last year, South Carolina, according to reports and rumors and whispers, had $5.5 million to play with. That's still last in the SEC. Again, we've thrown the number out. You want to be competitive in the SEC, you got to spend $8 to $10 million on your roster, and to be honest, closer to 10. And if you're South Carolina, whether it's Lamont Paris coming back next year or a new coach, you've got to up your commitment in millions to the roster. You've got to get in that $8 to $10 million sweet spot. Really, again, closer to 10 at the end of the day. That's where you're competitive in the roster building cap, so to speak. And then you give that money to whoever the coach is. If it's Lamont, you say, okay, man, we've doubled you. Now you got to go win. Now your seat is blistering hot because we're going to give you the money and the resources and the backing financially to go build a roster. Now go build a roster and make it a heck of a lot better than the last 2 years. Make it more like that trip to the NCAA tournament than what we've seen since. And if you're going to hire a new coach, you've got to give that new coach $8 to $10 million, or he's not coming. You're not going to get a coach to come in here with any kind of resume of success if you're not going to promise that much money to build a roster. You're just not. Not in today's basketball. And like I said before, and I keep saying it, men's basketball is a profit-making venture. Not to put resources into it to maximize your profits. I just don't think that's a sound philosophy. So we'll see where this goes. And again, I think it comes down to Jeremiah Donati. Does he believe that what he saw, or what we saw here 3 seasons ago now, is what Lamont can do if you do give him the financial resources and backing to build a roster? That is the decision, right? Do you believe in that version of South Carolina basketball under Lamont Paris in year 2 and believe he can do more of that if you give him more resources? Or do you see 3 bad seasons in 4 years and you see a pretty empty Colonial Life Arena on senior night, and do you think, okay, I just have to go in another direction? We'll find out. We will. But the resources are the thing. And it really doesn't matter who the coach is. What matters is financially giving the men's basketball program the money it needs to go out and get players, to compete in the SEC. That's really where it's at. So we shall see where that goes. But this year, again, it wasn't last year. That loss to North Florida kind of put a stink bomb on the whole season. This year, it wasn't anything to that level, but it was just you watched it and you're like, this team does not look like they're going to be able to compete against the squads in the SEC. And unfortunately, that's the way it turned out. And for next year, who knows? If you look at this roster for next year, Elijah Strong has eligibility. And that's it with the starting 5 from last night. E.J. Walker, Eli Ellis, Grant Polk, all were freshmen who gave you some moments. Ellis more moments than the other 2. Obviously, they could be back. Who else are you going to add to this roster? Because you're going to have to add. And can you keep, and if Lamont does stay, isn't Eli Ellis going to stick? Isn't Elijah Strong going to stick? Who's going to stay? Who's not? I mean, that's what's coming up next. Because this is a team, a ton of transfers through the portal, and now they're leaving. Except, just Strong is the one that has the eligibility left. And look, Elijah Strong was a mixed bag. Last night played 11 minutes, scored 3 points, and defensively had no hope, just like the rest of the guys in the interior. Had no hope. Strong has had some good games, and Strong has had some not so good games. Strong shot selection sometimes makes you scratch your head, and he shoots it when he's on the court. Make no mistake. He shoots it. You see someone you could bring in, and maybe, again, in the correct role, could he help you win games? That's a question. Out of the freshmen, I love Eli Ellis's want to. There's just some things he's got to figure out to get himself to be a contributor on a consistent level. All right, we will continue to talk men's basketball and spring practice, but baseball tonight, we'll get into that next as the Gamecocks, coming off a win last night against USC Upstate, will host Charleston Southern. More from Paul Maneri, the head coach, next on the postgame show. All right, post-game show, bottom of the hour. Jordan Kay from the State Newspaper going to hang out with us, talk some Gamecocks, spring practice. Today started the whole deal. So we're officially on to 2026, and we flushed 2025. How's that sound? I'm trying to be all positive and glass half full. There are reasons to be positive, be optimistic. Again, we opened the show with, hey, it's been a rough 13, 14, 15 months since that win over Clemson in Thanksgiving weekend 2024. Seen a lot of gloom and doom, a lot of negative, a lot of losses. So I understand. So I'm trying to give us a little positivity on day one here. It's like we said, if you can hold your own defensively like you've been, if you hold your own on special teams like you have, and if your offense can step up just to be, if nothing else, heck, middle of the pack, from bottom of the pack, how much better a football team can you be? So we'll see. The spring practice starting today. And we'll get to that with Jordan Kay, bottom of the hour. All right, so South Carolina tonight against Charleston Southern. Before we get to that part, Paul Mainieri talking to the media. And here he is talking about, Tyler Bach had a nice start that first weekend and has had some struggles. And here is Paul Mainieri kind of deep diving into his outfielder.
That was a coach's decision, yeah. I wasn't happy with Tyler's first at bat. He missed a signal and then, had a chance to do something good there. And I've been wanting to play Jamison anyway, but man, that we've faced three lefties, face another lefty tomorrow. I wasn't really sure when he was going to get in, so I just put him in. And he came through with a big hit for us. That was a big RBI that he drove in. Once the game got, I think that was our fifth run maybe. After we had taken a lead by one, he drove in an assurance run, and when the game was still very much in doubt. Jamison's been playing really well, and we just ran into left-handers, and that's why he hasn't played. But that was the reason why I made the change there. I love Tyler, but he just you can't miss signals, and you can't you got to stick your nose in there and drive in that run when we needed it to. But he's a great player, and I love him.
So Tyler Bach basically again missed a signal. I get that. Obviously if you're, and Tyler's been struggling, and that's part of it too, but you got to set. Here's the thing: you've got to set a line if you're Paul Mainieri. You have to. In Bach's first at bat, he missed a signal, goes 0 for 1, doesn't get the run driven in, and then after that, with the strikeout, all of a sudden Aaron Jamison takes over. You're sending a message to your team. You can't miss signs. You just can't, especially when you're hitting around 200. And you've been scuffling, and they put on, whether it's a hit and run, whether it's whatever they're putting on with the signal from the third base box. You can't miss it. You just can't. And look, you're so okay, is it Talmadge LeCroy Terra who's hitting almost 400? If he misses a signal, is Paul Mainieri going to sit him down? Maybe not. But when you're hitting around 200 and then you miss a sign, again, you could be sat down, and it's a message to the team: don't miss signs. Because you can't. What if you get in a situation where you have something going on late game? Let's say you got a runner. Let's say you got a runner on first, nobody out, and if you're Paul Mainieri, it's the ninth inning, it's a tie game, or you're down by a run. Let's go tie game, and you want to move that runner to second, and your guy missed a signal and he strikes out. That's a huge deal. That changes a lot. Guys can't miss signals. Look, it happens sometimes. Not, nobody's perfect, but is that a focus thing? Do you have other focus issues with Tyler Bach that lead you to doing that? Because sometimes you've had a couple other things that kind of make you raise your eyebrow, and then this happens. You go, I got to sit this guy down. We got to get him focused because he's got a lot of ability and skill, and he can help us win. But we got to get him focused. Or you're just saying, look, we can't let guys miss signs. You got to sit down next to me, bub. It's sort of like, for me personally, in baseball, when guys don't run hard out of the box. I've never understood it, maybe because when I was a little kid playing Little League, we were benched if we didn't run hard. I know we're a bunch of little snot-nosed kids. I get it. But, you're only going to be up there 3, 4, 5 times a game. Run hard. Because let's say the first 99 times you run hard, it doesn't matter. But that one time you didn't, it matters. You got to run hard. And I know in Major League Baseball, you'll see, Ronald Acuna Jr. does it. There's some other players, when they barrel a ball and it looks like it might go out, they stand there and watch it, and all of a sudden, if it hits off the wall, sometimes they get a single, and they should have been at least second base. That's just unacceptable. I'm sorry. That's my little pet peeve in baseball. That's mine. Just telling you. We all have our little pet peeves in sports. That's mine in baseball, is you don't run hard out of the box. But, for Palmineri, Bach missed a sign. Now you're going to have a seat. Very simple. And hopefully that's the last sign that Tyler Bach misses, or anybody else on the team for that matter. All right, Charleston Southern, really quick. 10-1 on the season. Like I said, offensively, it's a squad that they hit about 284. Their OPS is 860. On base percentage, though, for this team, 448. They get on base. Matter of fact, they walk more than they strike out if the numbers in front of me are correct. No, it's even. 81, 82, plus they've been hit by pitch 30 times. They get on base. Power, they've only got 9 home runs so far this year. So they get on base, and they hit for a pretty solid average, but the getting on base thing is what they do very well. Stolen base-wise, they're 11 for 11 this year in 11 games. So we'll see what happens tonight. If you're Coach Maneri, are you making sure that your pitchers hold runners better, that their time to home plate is faster? They don't mess around because, again, these guys are 11 for 11. Are they going to run? So we'll see what goes on tonight offensively for College of Charleston. Team ERA is about 4.18, which in today's world of baseball is all right. Whip is at 1.25. They're 10-1 on the season. They have a starting pitcher you won't see tonight, Brady Bickett, who in 3 starts has a 0 ERA. 13 2/3 scoreless innings. His whip is .80. That means he's walked a couple of hitters. But you will not see him tonight. Last time I checked, I keep looking for pitching matchups, and I'll keep looking. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong place, but you got a lot to be determined. And I will refresh and see what I can find here, because we're at 427, 428 in the afternoon. So I will look again. But pitching-wise, okay. Overall, team ERA. Hitting, they get on base. They don't steal a ton. They're averaging like a stolen base a game. But this is a team that's 10-1 on the year. Their only loss of the season was in 11 innings to UNC Wilmington. That game was 11-10. They have scored double-digit runs in their last 5 games. So they're on a little bit of a heater offensively. All right, Jordan Kay from the State Newspaper is coming up again tonight. College of Charleston in South Carolina, 6:15, pregame 6:30 first pitch. Next, though, let's talk some Carolina spring football with our buddy Jordan Kay from the State Newspaper. It is a postgame show with Terry Ford. Thanks for hanging with us on the Game Network, and at the Game TV Radio on YouTube. All right, we're going to check the traffic as soon as soon as we refresh the traffic page, which is decided not to refresh. So we're getting there. Hang in there with me. And we'll get to it. Obviously, the typical construction in all the spots that we get it every day is happening around the Midlands. You know by now you'll be sitting, or you have to go a different way to get around it all. There was a sinkhole issue on Assembly. Might want to look out for as well today. You had to go around there, been directing traffic because of that issue. Oh, here we go. I think we're refreshing. This is exciting. All right, real quick. We'll get to it next hour. It's over. Our traffic bet is over. All right, get our buddy Jordan Kay in here in a minute from the state newspapers. We talk spring practice. It's on today. It started today with South Carolina. All right, Jordan Kay, where did you hide in the complex so you could watch more than like that first 20 minutes or half hour? Do you have a special hiding spot they haven't found yet?
Man, I need to get one. I've heard that even if you go to the top of the apartments that you still can't even see it. So I think they've done a pretty good job. Yeah, I mean, maybe if you go into a parking lot or something, you could hear some stuff. But, yeah, probably I've not found a good spot yet.
Yeah, but it is. And today, what'd you get, about a half hour today of practice?
Yeah, 30, 35 minutes is actually pretty solid.
And that's good. You and I were talking on the phone when I gave you a call. You know, I remember, like, with the NFL teams, you get like 15, 20 minutes, and then they throw you out of the complex, and then they get working on the real stuff. So 30 to 35 minutes is gold, my friend.
It was great. I appreciated it. So thank you to Shane Beamer and company.
Yeah, that's one thing really quick with Beamer is he gets it a little bit more than some of the others that probably you and I have dealt with over the years.
Yeah. I think every SEC has their own. None of it's great, but yes, I've heard some horror stories from across the league. South Carolina is definitely better than most.
Yes. Jordan Kay, state newspaper, hanging out with us. All right, so what you, like, was there anything from today except, we got to see some of the guys come on the field and wow, that dude's bigger than I thought. Wow, that guy's gigantic. Wow, that guy, this or that. Anything stick with you that you took away when you went to write your article for the state?
I was really impressed with Julian Walker, the true freshman from Dutch Fork. I mean, that dude just looked the part. So he was probably the one guy where I was kind of looking of like, I had seen pictures of him in high school, and I had seen what he did at the Under Armour Army All-American game. And you're like, all right, this guy is really good, really big, can come in right away. But just seeing him next to every other edge at 18 years old, it was like, wow, holy cow, this kid could really come in and compete right away. Kind of reminded me of seeing Dylan Stewart for the first time.
Yeah, and Jordan, you have to remind yourself he's 18, right? You have to sit there and go, wow, that's not like a 25-year-old man. That's an 18-year-old.
100%, yeah. And I guess he could even be 17. I got to go look because he should be a senior in high school right now.
Right. So he might not even be 18. Can you see him? Take yourself back to your high school. Close your eyes. And Julian Walker is walking through your hallways that big as a senior in high school.
Yeah, wouldn't be fun. I would smile and wave.
Exactly. Jordan Kay from the state newspaper hanging out with us talking about spring practice. Today was day one for South Carolina. When you're watching, you got just like position group stuff, and so I know you had your eyeball on the offensive line, the drills, and maybe watching Coach Clem. Did anything hit you in the head as you watched that?
Not a ton. I mean, I saw one drill that he was doing where a lot of offensive line people on X were like, what on earth are they doing? So I'm excited to talk to him in a couple weeks and figure that out. It's got like 200,000 views, and all these offensive line coaches are like, I really want to know, like, what is the point of this? So that was one interesting thing. I wasn't around him too much, so it'll be interesting over the next month or so to kind of get a better feel for him as a coach and kind of some of the things he's doing. I think one of the interesting part is that, I think like a former top 5 NFL draft pick, Jason Smith, is his assistant offensive line coach. So, I just seeing him for the first time, you're like, wow, you can tell that guy played offensive line too. So, they got two sets of pretty veteran eyes on that group.
You know what, Jordan, honestly, after what we've seen here last year and kind of what we've seen on and off for the most part for Shane's first 5 years, whatever he's doing, okay, man, just go do it. As long as it makes everybody better, I don't care. I don't care if you got him in mini skirts and pumps and what. I don't care. Just make this thing better. Whatever you're doing is fine with me at this point.
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend like I can figure out what offensive line drills are best, but clearly what they've been doing the last couple of years hasn't produced any results. So a new voice, new drills, whatever. Put it all out there.
Absolutely. Jordan Kay, the State Newspaper, hanging out with us here on the Postgame Show on the Game and the Game Network and at the Game TV Radio and YouTube. All right, so, obviously the big news and you were obviously there yesterday when Shane talked about Josiah Thompson being out, and it's a lower body injury, and it's something that just didn't happen now, but it's been lingering around for a while. Does anything hit you in the head of what could this have affected his play last year? Because remember, he dropped off a ton his sophomore year compared to his freshman year. Could there have been some kind of lingering injury issue that's been going on for a while, and maybe that's the explanation for the performance problems from last year? Did you start kind of running through that Rolodex in your head to start, okay, what did I miss? Did I miss anything? Did you kind of do that?
Well, I was talking to people, and it 1,000% affected his play. From what I heard, the problems kind of started towards the end of his freshman year. I think there was a game he went down or missed against Vanderbilt, and some people think that's kind of the beginning of it. And I wasn't able to figure out exactly what the issue is, other than it's something with the knee, kind of an odd thing around the knee, but not like an MCL, not an ACL, not a patella. So just kind of something that's been odd, a knee thing where basically his knee has just been weaker than it should be. And you can imagine as an offensive lineman getting in your sets and trying to push on, a 350-pound or defensive tackle or a 250-pound edge. You really need your knees to be strong. And I think that that was one of the things that probably contributed to him taking a step back last season. And then, you think of just, hey, if your knee's injured, you're probably going to try and, compensate for that a little bit. So, I think that the injury and the lingering stuff definitely contributed.
All right, I've got to ask you about the quarterback because I'm contractually obligated. Lenore Sellers, he spoke to the media today. Obviously, he was out doing some position drills. Do you get anything from what he said to the media today, or just watch him on the field a little bit?
Not really. I didn't see much of what he was doing. It was a lot of individual drills. I think, he's been saying all the right things about how much he loves what Kendall Briles has been doing so far, the new offense. Basically saying, hey, I came back to school because I need to, show that I can, that I'm can be a comfortable quarterback, can look comfortable in an offense and can make all these throws. So I didn't get a ton out of it. I would hope that no one watches one spring practice or 30 minutes of that and starts making grandiose observations about the future of Lenore Sellers. But he's saying all the right things. It really does seem like he is comfortable with Kendall Briles. And I thought one thing that was interesting is, he kind of took ownership of trying to get guys out of the portal. He said, hey, I watched Nitro Tuggle's film from Purdue and really liked what he did and thought he could fit into, could fit kind of what we do and what I like. And I sent the video over to, our coaching staff. So I thought that part was kind of interesting. We knew he was doing that a little bit, but he was really taking the onus of going to watching these guys' films in a bunch of different games and trying to figure out, who he wants to play with.
Well, that's that ownership, leadership component that is that question mark around him. And if that is what he was doing, it sounds like that's going in the right direction, so to speak, right?
Yeah, I think that's a part of it. And, he said he's trying to work on, being a better leader, and I think that's something that Kendall Briles hopefully, is able to work with him on.
Jordan Kay, the state newspaper. Are you back at it tomorrow, right?
Yes. Well, no, there's nothing going on.
That's
for a
right.
couple
There's
days,
nothing going on. That's right.
We're good.
Well, hey, take a rest. You've had a hell of a rough day.
I know. Appreciate you having me on. Thank you, sir.
Always good talking with you, Jordan. Jordan Kay from the state newspaper hanging out with us. I think it is interesting with Lenore's talking about, helping them find guys in the portal. And look, and Kendall Briles talking to him about being, I guess, more of a vocal leader and more of taking ownership and taking leadership. And again, with Lenore's, he's a laid-back, quiet guy. He's very respectful. I've heard a lot of Lenore Sellers stories about, man, that guy's so respectful. Jeez. And, so maybe, like I always say this, if you are evolving as a leader within your natural personality, that's a good thing. If you're trying to be something you're not, that doesn't work because it doesn't come off genuine. So if Lenore Sellers, in the context of his personality, is starting to take some more ownership and feeling more comfortable in a leadership role, that's nothing but a good thing. Post-game show, Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out. A couple NFL news and notes we have to get to on the show. Things happening in the National Football League. A big trade. The Rams don't really care about first-round picks. We'll talk about that coming back here on the post-game show on the Game Network, at the Game TV Radio on YouTube. All right, so the LA Rams, who played in the NFC Championship game last year, are famous for trading away first-round draft picks. Remember, they got to the Super Bowl on the strength of trading away their high-level draft capital to go get proven high-level players. And it worked. They won a Super Bowl. Then when everything cratered, and we've talked about it on the show, they kind of reassessed their philosophy moving forward and decided that they were going to get smarter in how they drafted. And they started saying, screw 40 times in the combine. Let's go collect GPS play speed data, which basically how fast do you play football on the field in pads and gear, which to me is very smart. They also looked at guys with leadership / culture positive kind of grades, and they look for like body frame. Have you grown? Are you kind of done? Or do you have room to grow within your body frame? Pounds, muscle, whatever. Those are things they started looking at, and that's why they do so well in drafting in the mid-rounds or the second or third round, because they're looking for specific things that fit what they do on offense and defense. And so you look at the Rams as being very, very smart. But you know what? They still trade first-round picks. They have 2 first-round picks this year. Well, they had. Now they have 1. They traded, I think, their 29th, the 29th pick overall in the first round, one of their 2 first-rounders, their second one, I think, to the Kansas City Chiefs, and in return they get corner Trent McDuffie, who was an All-Pro 2 years ago. Last year, McDuffie's coverage grades were good, like 75, which is above average, but McDuffie wasn't as good in 25 as he was in 24. Now, McDuffie is set to make $13.5 million after the Chiefs exercise his 5th-year option on his contract. The Rams trading for McDuffie will probably try to work on a long-term contract that will be cap-friendly in the short term and McDuffie-friendly with the guaranteed money he's going to get. And even if McDuffie, if McDuffie gets back to all-pro status like he was in 2024, huge win for the Rams, but if McDuffie just plays the way he did last year, that's great, because the Rams secondary scuffled and struggled last year. It just did. And so if Trent McDuffie can be the player that he was or has been, that's a win. It's just a win for the Rams. If you look at McDuffie's coverage grade and then look at the coverage grades of the Rams corners, McDuffie would have had the best coverage grade on the team, even in a year that wasn't as good as his all-pro season of 2024. So the point is, the Rams just made themselves better at corner and gave away the 29th pick overall, which is obviously low in the first round. So, good move by the Rams. And for the Chiefs, good move too, because, look, the Chiefs are looking to, save some money on – they've got to save money on the cap. They've got to go out and get some more players on rookie deals that can help them win now as they're getting themselves back together. I mean, the Chiefs last year missed the postseason. Patrick Mahomes got hurt, ACL. You have no weapons at wide receiver that are consistent. Travis Kelce still contributes, but he's not the player he used to be. The offensive line got better last year, but still needs to improve. Defensively, you weren't as good as you've been the last few years, even though you still have some really good players. You got some stuff to do, is what I'm saying. And by the way, you're in a heck of a division. So for the Chiefs, you add draft capital and hopefully you can trim some salary cap off the books. For the Rams, you get what right now would be your best corner and help a huge area of weakness for you. So, I mean, solid deal for both teams. All right. Again, tonight we will be checking out Carolina Baseball 6:15. Pre-game, our coverage starts against Charleston Southern. Last night, South Carolina men's basketball, things did not go well. Losing 78-59 to Tennessee on senior night at CLA. Lamont Paris talking to the media after the game and about what happened and the disappointment of the performance on senior night. Here's Lamont just saying too many guys didn't play well.
We can't have all those guys play poorly. I mean, there's giving up offensive rebounds and not fighting and being as aggressive as we wanted to. And then there's also playing poorly. And so you can't do both of those things. It's hard to consistently, for some guys to consistently have a baseline of product that they put out. And so today we had multiple guys that just didn't have a good day offensively. And so that just makes it, it makes it hard. That's why you're going to put up a number that's in the 50s. And if you put up a number that's in the 50s, you're putting so much pressure on your defense to come and hold a team like that down. And it's just difficult. It's not realistic, honestly. But so we needed a couple more guys just to play better. Don't have to play great, but just play better.
Yeah, so there you go. Just play better. Not to play great, just play better. It's very simple. And it didn't happen last night. And it hasn't happened this year, to be quite honest. So, that's just, but it's been the theme of the season at South Carolina this year for men's basketball under Lamont. You brought in some guys who you were hoping were going to be able to bring certain strengths to the table or certain things to the table for you, and it just didn't work out that way for you. You brought in a bunch of guys to shoot threes, and those guys didn't shoot up to their career marks, a lot of them. And no one that was brought in here is going to remind you of Steph Curry. It wasn't going to happen. But if you look at, for an example, Mike Sharmajance, in his career, he was a guy that at one point hit 36% of his threes. I mean, he got better as the year went along, got to 33, which is right around his career number. But he was one of the few. Most guys didn't post up around their career numbers of three-point shooting percentage, even though it's about average, and that hurt this team because it was built on the threes. 5 o'clock news coming up. CHW Cabinetry, we talk about Star and her crew a lot here. Why? Because if you're looking for someone to do high-quality work, giving you some cabinets, inside, outside, doesn't matter. Pick a room, doesn't matter. They'll get it done for you at CHW Cabinetry. And they do something that's really, really different. It's called photorealistic renderings. From beginning to end, you get to see your job right in front of you with photorealistic renderings. It's just different. What they do is different. And you give them a call, set everything up, go sit down and talk with them, and they will let you know what they can do for you and how they'll do it that makes it budget friendly. 803-520-6837. CHW Cabinetries, again, 803-520-6837. Give them a ring. Get started. All right, we got some stop-and-go traffic in Lexington, I-26 westbound between exit 110 and 108. That's US 378 and Bush River Road. Also, accidents, Alpine Road at I-20, I-20 eastbound after White Pond Road. That's exit 87. Couple on 77, one northbound at Bluff Road, exit 5, southbound at Garner's Ferry Road, exit 9. We'll come back with some sad news of a former Gamecock head coach. That is next here on the post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out as we run this baby up until 6 here on the game. Then we have 6:15 baseball. Pre-game, 6:30 first pitch. South Carolina and Charleston Southern, again, coming up tonight right here on the game. All right, Integrated Media sponsoring the 5 o'clock news here on the game. Terry Ford post-game show. Sad news. Former South Carolina head coach Lou Holtz has passed away at the age of 89. Holtz, of course, to South Carolina fans, was known for turning around the program that had hit some rough times. A 21-game losing streak at one point turned into 2 straight Outback Bowl wins. Because Holtz, again, took over a team that was 1-10 in Brad Scott's final year. But again, a 21-game losing streak, then completing one of the biggest turnarounds in college football history. South Carolina then would go 8-4 and 9-3, and capping both those seasons with Outback Bowl wins. I remember Holtz started his first year, the squad went 0-11. Holtz, after that, with the 2 back-to-back 8-4, 9-3, then 5-7, 5-7, 6-5, 33-37 career at South Carolina, but getting that team turned around from that 21-game losing streak to win 8 and then win 9 in back-to-back seasons, that's always going to be remembered fondly in these parts by the folks who were watching it, participated in it. Our buddy Langston Moore, who we have here on the show a lot, we're going to talk to Langston, who played obviously for Lou. We're going to have Langston here at 5:15. He'll give us some memories of playing for Lou Holtz. Again, that's coming up at 5:15 here on the Gamecock Notebook. Holtz, obviously also very successful, won a national championship at Notre Dame in 1988. Had many double-digit win seasons at Notre Dame, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 double-digit win seasons with the Irish. Arkansas, his first year in 1977, went 11-1, won the Orange Bowl, finishing number 3 in the country. Also had 2 9 and 10 win seasons at Arkansas. Before that was at NC State. He was successful, 4 winning seasons at NC State. Had 2 years at Minnesota. It was kind of interesting. Left Arkansas for Minnesota for 2 years. Everyone knew Notre Dame was his dream job. Matter of fact, in Lou's contract, if I remember correctly, in his Minnesota contract, it said he could leave to take the Notre Dame gig. And he went to Notre Dame in 86, I believe replacing Jerry Faust, if my memory serves me. And after a 5-6, then went on a run. 7 straight seasons of at least 8 wins or more. Again, that national championship. Team fell to 6-5 and 1 in 94, then 9-3 and 8-3 in 95 and 96. And then Lou left, was out for a couple years, and came back to South Carolina, where he finished up his coaching career. Lou was also a great speaker. A great speaker. He did a lot of public speaking. And here's Lou Holtz giving one of his inspirational speeches in front of a huge crowd of folks.
In my mouth, I know I was born in Fallsby, West Virginia. And I went by where I was born last night, about 10:30. I was born in a cellar at home, delivered by Dr. McGraw. We had one bedroom for my sister, myself, and my parents. We had a half bath and a kitchen. 7.5 years we lived in that place. There was no welfare. There was no food stamps. There was no safety net. But I always had plenty to eat. Because every time I asked for seconds, my dad would say, no, you had plenty. But the reason I was born with a silver spoon, my dad had only gone to the 3rd grade. That's all the education he had. But why was I born with a silver spoon in my mouth? Because I was taught by my parents that life's a matter of making choices, wherever you are, good or bad, because of choices you make. Don't blame anybody else, but if you get an education, you're willing to work and overcome problems and difficulties, in this great country, you can amount to something. That's why I was born with a silver spoon. I was in this country and I was taught personal responsibility for choices you make.
Here's a little Lou Holtz, one of his many inspirational speeches that he had. Again, he was an excellent public speaker, good sense of humor. I talked to people who have been at some of Lou Holtz's public speaking engagements. They say it's phenomenal. It'll make you laugh, make you think. So Lou Holtz passing away at the age of 89. Again, we'll talk to our bud Langston Moore at 5:15 in the Gamecock Notebook about his time playing for Lou at South Carolina. All right, we move on. We move on with the Integrated News 5 o'clock news here on the Game and the Game Network and at the Game TV Radio. Stephon Diggs, in some NFL news, was an integral part of the New England Patriot turnaround this past season. Of course, Patriots played in the Super Bowl, losing to the Seahawks. Well, the Patriots have informed Diggs he will be released at the start of the 2026 league year. Diggs, and here's why. It's very simple. Diggs' salary cap hit will go from $10.5 million to $26.5 million. And he had to do it. If he's on the roster by the end of next week, he also would have got an additional $6 million in contract guarantees. And Diggs posted a message on Instagram saying, "Thank you for a hell of a year. We are family forever." Diggs is 32 years old. Guy's had some really good seasons, make no doubt. But he's also been injured here lately. In Houston, only played in 8 games in 2024. Bounced back with a solid season this past year. 85 grabs for over 1,000 yards, averages a tick under 12 yards a catch, 4 TDs. But again, you don't want to pay $26 million for that type of production. You just don't. And again, someone will, and maybe Diggs will, stay with the Patriots by reworking a contract. Obviously, that couldn't happen. Or maybe New England wants to move on from Diggs at 32. But Diggs will find a spot in the league. I'm not going to get $26 million for next year anywhere. But still an above-average wide receiver. Just again, in the salary cap world, you look at 3 things: age, production, and cap hit. If 2 of those 3 things don't jive, you usually get released. So we'll see where Stephon Diggs lands, but let go by the New England Patriots today after 1 season. But a productive season, helping New England get to the Super Bowl. 5 o'clock news sponsored by Integrated Media. Here on the Game, Daniel Jones, the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, is getting the transitional tag. First of all, it's smart, in my opinion, to tag Jones because, again, you didn't get to see a full season of Daniel Jones with you. Early on, the Colts offense was like cooking, man. And then things started to slow down a little bit. Jones started to get beat up and injured. And the Colt offense went, Jones was out for the year with the Achilles. So, the Colts really do like Daniel Jones. They didn't get to see a full season of Jones running the offense. He is coming off an Achilles. So, at the end of the day, it's smart, in my opinion. You put that transitional deal, the transition tag on him. He'll get almost $38 million. He'll play the season on it. It couldn't come to a long-term deal. See how he comes back from the Achilles, see how he plays in year 2, and if he does play to the level that you hope he will, then you can talk about a long-term deal. So I think it's smart. Because the Colts now, look, the jury is still out on Daniel Jones. He had one good, not great year with the Giants, and was playing really well for a good portion of the season last year with the Colts. But you have not seen a full season of wow quarterback play from Daniel Jones. So why would you give him a long-term deal and put yourself possibly in cap hell when you don't know what this guy could be? It's smart, put the transitional tag on him. Yes, that does bring different criteria when it comes to the tag. That's a different tag for Daniel Jones that the Colts put on him. And to go into that in detail a little bit, real fast. Basically, on a transition tag, teams can try to get Daniel Jones. It can happen. But the Colts basically can match anything that comes along the pike. So it's not like the franchise tag. It's not as expensive. But the thought is a guy coming off an Achilles, even if he does explore the market, he's not going to find a long-term deal. So really, that's smart move again by the Colts. Smart move. The Dallas Cowboys have cleared cap. They're finally under the cap. They've restructured contracts for CeeDee Lamb, Tyler Smith, and Dak Prescott. Dallas was nearly $55 million over the cap before these moves, but the restructuring cleared about $66 million in cap space. They need more room, though, if they want to be aggressive. Now, again, George Pickens, they're going to slap a franchise tag on him, is the way it looks. But they'd love to get I shouldn't say love. Working out a long-term deal for Pickens would give them some more salary cap flexibility because it would be a cap-friendly deal. Dallas has to obviously do something about their defense, which is putrid and god-awful. Offensively, Cowboys were really good last year, but their defense was terrible. You got to go out and improve your pass rush. You got to improve your secondary. You got to improve the entire bleeping defense. It was terrible. So Dallas does now is a little bit of cap space, but they need more. They cleared $66 million. They were $55 million over, so my phone tells me it's about $11 million they have to play with right now, in addition to whatever else they can dig up. But, again, the Cowboys, they got work to do, whether it's draft, free agency, whatever. They just got to make their defense better. Flat out better. All right, that is the 5 o'clock news from Integrated Media. Oh, yeah, one more thing in the 5 o'clock news. We did not get this yesterday. I want to get this today. Jerkerson Profar looks like he will be missing the entire season in Atlanta. Once again, the PED issue has reared its ugly head for Profar. And now he is going to miss the season. It's a head scratcher to me when this happens all the time. I don't get it. I just don't get it. I just don't. Second positive test for PEDs. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you that sloppy? First of all, why are you doing it? Let's start there, because that's what you're supposed to say. One, why are you doing it? Two, if you're going to do it, why are you not being smart in how to, I don't know, hide it and mask it? What are you doing? Anybody that knows anything about PEDs or steroids or whatever says you get caught because you're sloppy or stupid. So I don't get Jerkerson Profar at all. I just don't. So once again, Jerkerson Profar not available for the Atlanta Braves. Outfielder DH expected to be a regular and bat 2 in the lineup behind Ronald Acuna Jr. Second positive test for PEDs. Just head scratching. All right, that is the 5 o'clock news. Sponsored by Integrated Media. We'll pop back in here. Our good friend, our good bud Langston Moore, will jump in to talk about Lou Holtz, if you haven't heard, the former Gamecock head coach, passing away today at the age of 89. So we'll hear from Langston, who played for Lou, coming up in our Gamecock Notebook section next here on the Postgame Show on the Game Network, and at the Game TV Radio. All right, Gamecock Notebook will be totally dedicated to Lou Holtz, former Gamecock head coach, passing away at the age of 89 today. And who better to talk about Lou Holtz than a guy who played for Lou Holtz? Langston Moore. What were you, 10 years with Lou, Langston?
10 years ago? I wish. More like 20-something years ago.
All right, so give me your first. Obviously, Lou recruited you
Right.
and was part of it at some point, whether he was the closer, whatever. Lou came in the living room at the house, right?
Yeah. He came in the living room way back in the 1900s, before like instant messages and things got around. You know, they tell that story of Bill O'Brien where you used to ride through like these towns. You would know that was him because that houndstooth hat would be in that back window and word would spread around. That kind of was like what it was in 1999 when Lou came to James Island. It was him, Charlie Strong, Chris Kosh. I'd say Chris Kosh, but Buddy Pugh swears up and down with him. He was the closer definitely for our whole entire staff. And I just remember Lou came in, you know, didn't pay attention to me, had his whole spiel for my mom, my old man. But the whole time his nose was running, and it was like, you know, middle of the summertime, his nose was running just nonstop. And I was just like, man, this dude got a bunch of balled up tissues in my living room. And that's all I was thinking about. I wasn't thinking about nothing else but like Mr. Burns with this runny, wet nose. But that was definitely my first encounter with Lou in person. But yeah, man, he was the man. He was, you know, at the time, you don't know what you're getting into, and that's the beauty of being young and dumb. You find somebody you can trust, and that was his whole deal. He gave, for me personally, you know, he gave us that life code: trust, care, commitment, and everything you do. You know, his whole mantra is, you know, you put that anybody in the world up to that test. If you can say 2 out of 3, you can live with that person. If not, if only one, you know, you got to get him out of your organization. And I mean, you can see it from his whole record, from South Carolina to Arkansas to Minnesota to William and Mary, NC State, all the way back to he's been a turnaround artist. And, you know, of course, getting his dream job at Notre Dame and winning the national championship, bringing a South Carolina guy in, Tony Rice, to do it. So, I mean, just Lou Holtz is, I mean, it's wild. I tell the story. I've been joking with people like Lou Holtz is 89, right? And so like he seems like he's been 89 since I saw him 23 years ago in my living room. And so it's like the Benjamin Button curse for him. He, you know, he's always was looking like an old guy his whole entire life, but so all his beauty and all his suaveness came later in life because he just always has looked the same for the last 30 years, in my opinion. So we saw him a couple years ago when South Carolina played Notre Dame in the bowl game, and you always see Coach from like the chest up, the waist up on TV, and that was the first time he came through the door when he had to walk, and we're like, oh man, Coach, but he still was sharp as ever, ran the room and paid great homage, of course, to Notre Dame, but of course he gave a big shout out and did a big over the top deal for South Carolina and all the players that was there. So, and that's in typical Lou fashion, man. He's the man. There's the biggest thing I always say, and Preston and I and all the South Carolina guys, we always talk about, I wish we could have just remembered more, wrote down more. Wish we had these phones then to just record all this stuff then, because there were so many jewels. And I definitely know we could do some podcasts and do some talking points about this dude forever, for at least for a year. We got at least enough of that content.
Langston Moore with us, who played for Lou at South Carolina. Lou Holtz passing away today at the age of 89. Langston, are you talking about all the jewels and stuff? Because I was going to say to you, when you're young, man, you're listening, you're going, yeah, whatever, man. And then you get older and you start, like, you know, maybe taking some of that stuff that Lou said and you start putting it in your life, and you're like, it's like your dad. It's like, you ever notice, like, your dad or your mom, and they say stuff to you, they have these sayings, these things, and you kind of blow it off when you're a kid, and all of a sudden when you have kids, you start saying the same stuff, and you walk out of the room going, oh my God, I'm becoming my dad. Oh no.
No, it's in there.
At what
it's
point
in there.
did you go, oh my God, I'm starting to talk like Lou Holtz?
Oh, well, that was the amazing thing, because, you know, crazy enough, Lou came in there when we were 1-11. That was a Aubergine, Brad Scott. You know those folks. We all know the history. But Lou came in and we went 0-11. We didn't think we could get any worse, and we got worse. And so Lou had to change the entire culture. And so all these little, you know, trust, care, commitment, all these little isms, these little sayings, Brewer says them all the time, Kimberly, Preston, everybody who comes on the air in contact, even when we see each other, it's just ingrained. And so we would be kind of, that's when the tide started turning, when you would start hearing guys like being the walking, talking emulation of like Lewis Holtz walking around the deal. So, but definitely, we always say that, you know, the older we get, the smarter Lou gets, because again, you just remember so much wisdom. You remember so many lifelong lessons. And I mean, just personally, just when my father passed away when I was on campus, I mean, one of the first people I ever talked to was Lou Holtz. So like, you know, just navigating all that stuff. And that's just my little story. There's tons and tons of stories out there of, you know, Lou being an SOB, most definitely, but there's so many stories of him being that dude of paying tuition or you know, being there for somebody or finding a way for somebody to get to the children, get their kid to the children's hospital, or man, just so many of those things that you'll never hear, and they should be heard of because, you know, that's Coach Holtz, that's Lou, you know, and that fabric is it's cool to be woven into that fabric and to have South Carolina, because he's been through here a couple times. You know, the first time I think it was through Coach Bass, and I don't know if you ever heard that story where Coach Holtz is like, you know, he got hired, and then I think they fired Coach Bass the next day, and he reads in the newspaper, he's like, you wonder if this guy has any relation to my coach. He's like, nah, of course, you fired. You just got this job, you're already fired. So point is, he's been through South Carolina you know, a bunch of times, but I always loved and respected, and he definitely will be missed, man. He's the man. We talk about him a good bit.
Langston Moore with us, who played for Lou at South Carolina. Lou Holtz passing away today at the age of 89. All right, so you say you could be an SOB, but I know you and Preston and Brewer and all you guys will say sometimes when he was the maddest, it was also the funniest. You guys had to, like, turn your head so you wouldn't laugh because you'd be running laps till you puked. Give me one of those times where Lou was really fired up and you guys had to turn your head because you wanted to, like, because it was also really funny, but he was, like, even though he was so serious.
Well, I mean, so many stories. Oh man, I'm trying to think. So many stories. I mean, one of the funniest things ever. Because again, it doesn't matter the season or the time of year. Lou would always be in the same outfit all the time. It'd be like those gray kind of collegiate kind of coaching pants all the time, and a sweater. And you know, again, Columbia, famously hot. This dude has on a sweater, but you didn't realize it was like one of these $1,000 air-conditioned, built-in cashmere sweaters that you know that's you get when you win the Masters type deals, and that's what Lou had. You know, one of the stories all the time he tells when you know it was windy out there on the practice field. He tells the kid like, "Nah, man, I got my wallet on. You got to worry about me blowing away." I mean, just so many things, but absolutely the best when he was fired up. But you had to figure out a way to keep your composure in the meeting room because, I mean, him being a short guy, he's always, you know, scanning. I see you. What do you got? You know, he's going to call you out. He's going to, you know, that jaw's going to get to shaking and, you know, all the spittle's going to be coming out full blow. But you got to figure out a way to hold it inside and then bring it up later. And hopefully somebody is brave enough to do it when we have a skid or when we went to a bowl game or something like that. But also Lou is, you know, he's sensitive now. You know, he's an artist. He's sensitive about his stuff now because, you know, even though time has passed, you might not still be able to bring it up. But so many stories about Coach Holtz, and I'm sure we'll be pouring them in as the days and the weeks come in.
Langston Moore played for Lou at South Carolina, part of the biggest turnaround in history. I got like a couple minutes left here. Kind of talk about after you lost 21 straight, and you're sick of losing, you're tired of losing, and then all of a sudden the turnaround starts. When did you guys really feel like we got something special going here and we could really do some damage in that year you guys went to 8 wins and won the Outback Bowl?
It was actually kind of the season before. The last 2 games, it was really close between Clemson and Florida here at home, and it got really close. I mean, we lost both of those games, of course, finishes out the season over. But that was kind of like the tide was turning, and that was the magic of Coach Holtz of keeping us engaged from that December, because it was a long off season going, you know, and again, we had to start back at the bottom of the hill with none of the results, and that's really, really tough with young folks, period, with anybody, period, to have some, you know, still got to delay some gratification, and still had to wait a couple more months till we saw the Mexico State, Boise State, and those folks, and then it just started rolling from there. Of course, beat Georgia at home, the second, third game of the season, and man, it was just off and running. And from there, that was also the other thing, you know, once we started going, never felt like, oh, is it a deal where we're going too high? You know, it never was a feeling like, are we falling or flying? It was, we knew exactly what we were doing. We were all focused, even though we weren't the most talented team. We were the most disciplined. And it's amazing, man, that whole toughness plan, there's a whole plan that Coach Holtz showed us how to win football games, and you saw Charlie Strong adapt, you see all these folks adapt, and I took it to the NFL when I played all these losing teams, and we had all I had to do was just put this little Lou Holtz test up to what we did wrong with the Detroit Lions. I was like, man, we weren't tough enough, we didn't run the football, we was bad on third. Lou Holtz still was right, man, just kind of like your parent, but you know, I wasn't the head coach, so it wasn't my job to share that information, but you could see it. He taught us how to win life and win football games, and that's the biggest thing beyond on football. I learned how to win some football games, but the biggest thing, as trite as it sounds, is he showed me how to win in life for sure.
Langston Moore played for Lewis, South Carolina. Look, man, I hit you at the last minute. Had to have you run, find a safe place you could talk to me where you'll be silent. I appreciate you, man, very much. Thanks a lot for jumping in, Langston.
Most definitely. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you, man. All right. Obviously, a sad day for South Carolina fans as Lou Holtz passes away at the age of 89. We'll come back to a drive around the SEC next here on the postgame show on the game. All right, checking the roads at 5:30. We have some accidents. US 601 at I-20. Also Old Hilton Road at Chapin Road. 77 northbound at Bluff Road, exit 5. They're still working on that accident. As they are still working on the one I-20 eastbound after White Pond Road. That's exit 87. And a new one just reported Alpine Road at I-20. We'll come back, get a drive around the SEC. Get you caught up on what's going on in the conference and hoops. That is next here on the postgame show. Terry Ford, thanks for hanging out with us as we go till 6 here on the game. 6:15 baseball. Don't forget, South Carolina hosting 10-1 Charleston Southern. Again, coverage starts here at 6:15 in Columbia and Myrtle Beach. Post-game show drive around the SEC. Looking at the conference, first of all, in men's basketball. Tonight, number 20 Arkansas, back home in Fayetteville. Arkansas had to travel to Gainesville, and they got taken to the woodshed multiple times by Florida. John Calipari, Todd Golden, the head coach at Florida, they had a moment or two. It was a rough day last weekend for Arkansas at Florida. But here's the thing about the Razorbacks. At home, they are a different animal, man. They have been spanking folks at home. Their only loss, I think, at home was to Kentucky, I believe. They have been really good in Fayetteville, and they get Texas coming in. Texas they've just been getting better and getting better under Sean Miller. Now they won, I think, 5 straight, then they lost 2 in a row. Then they bounced back and won at Texas A&M. Texas is on the right side of the bubble for now, but they end the season at Arkansas tonight. Then they get Oklahoma at home. You can't lose to Oklahoma. You just can't lose to Oklahoma if you're Texas. It's not even a conversation. Unless you want to go win the SEC tournament or go deep in the SEC tournament, you can't lose to Oklahoma, especially if you lose at Fayetteville tonight. And it's going to be a tall chore to beat Arkansas in their barn. So that's tonight in the SEC. Last night in the league, we've talked a lot about South Carolina's loss to Tennessee. We've heard from Lamont Paris. Let's get a little positive from last night's game. There wasn't much, but Nordic Kapik, in his final game, knocked down 3 threes in this game. 3 out of 5 from 3. The only other player besides Michi in double figures. And here is Lamont talking about Nordic Kapik.
Yeah. He's been playing better. I mean, it's a weapon if he can make some shots. I'll tell you the reason why he's been getting playing time pretty consistently over these last few games really is more that he has been more active defensively on a consistent basis than some of the other guys. And then it's nice when he makes some shots. We had some really good looks for him in a couple of these last games that he hadn't hit, and maybe they helped change the fortunes of those games. So it was nice to have him make some tonight. Hopefully he can keep that going because it is a weapon for us in trying to keep the floor open for guys like Michi to drive. Kobe has been getting into the paint a little bit more, but a big that can make shots is a big part of it. And throughout the whole summer and fall, he has made shots, and so hopefully that can get him going in terms of making some open looks.
Yeah, look, Kapik was brought in to hit threes. He has not done that consistently this year. Lost some playing time, was injured early. And again, it's all this what-if stuff, right? You see Kapik knock down 3 threes last night, and you're like, man, if he could have done that through the season, how much could that have possibly helped? Because Nordic Kapik, he struggled. It was a struggle. And a guy who shot more threes last year per game, they hope he was going to build upon what he did the year before, where he took 5 threes a game, started making more, and they were hoping he'd build one, and Nordic Capic just didn't. A below-average career three-point shooter, and this year only hit 30% of his threes. So, but last night in his final game, final collegiate game, good for Nordic Capic that he did come through, scoring 13 on 3 of 5 from 3. So that's good news. All right, also last night in the SEC, besides the South Carolina game, Florida just took apart Mississippi State in the second half. They scored 61 after intermission, rolled the Bulldogs 108-74. Alabama last night, they get beat by Georgia 98-88. Alabama's just a screwy team, man. They won, coming into this game, they'd won 8 straight. But last night, what happens to Alabama, what will bite them in the NCAA tournament at some point, is they don't want to play defense. Georgia's a good offensive team. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and say Georgia isn't good on the offensive end of the court. They're top 15 in the country in offense. They play really fast like Alabama. So it's nothing to take away from Georgia, but the fact is Alabama sometimes just does not care about defense in any way, shape, or form. They're still 12-5 in the league. They're still a team that could get to the Sweet 16 because they're that potent on offense and they play a fast style. But eventually, when you're allergic to defense, it's going to get you. And Alabama last night just did not guard well. And they lose 98-88 in Athens. Number 24, Vanderbilt. It wasn't easy, but Vandy goes to Oxford and wins 89-86. Again, Tyler Tanner has just had a hell of a year. 34 points, 11 of 19 shooting, made 3 threes in 6 attempts, got to the line 12 times, made 9 free throws, also throw in 7 assists and 5 rebounds. That's a night for the sophomore. And Vanderbilt holds off an Ole Miss team and just hung around. Ole Miss better shooting a night than Vanderbilt. Problem was Vandy in this basketball game ripped down 22 offensive rebounds. So Ole Miss, who's been playing better lately, and you don't want to hear that if you're a Gamecock fan, Ole Miss, despite the fact, let's see, they lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They have lost 11 to 12, but they only lost by 7 against LSU, beat Auburn at Auburn, and then had Vandy right to the end. So Ole Miss has been playing better lately. That's where South Carolina will go this Saturday. And, of course, you can hear that here on the game in Columbia and Myrtle Beach. And Vanderbilt, they improved to 10-7 in the SEC, and they'll obviously be in the NCAA tournament. We talk about Missouri all the time. It's a weird team. Missouri, going into last night's game in Norman, Oklahoma, had won 2 straight. They beat Tennessee at home, and they crushed Mississippi State in Starkville. And then last night in Norman, Oklahoma, they get whooped 80-64. They make no sense. They beat Vanderbilt. They beat Texas A&M on the road. There's just no rhyme or reason to Missouri. And they're in the NCAA tournament, but who knows what they'll do? Who knows? Game to game, half to half, possession to possession. They're just a kooky basketball team. And Oklahoma gets that win last night to improve to 6-11 in the SEC. Oklahoma's shown some life here lately. I think Porter Moser will get one more shot because the Sooners have won 3 straight. Again, they haven't, Auburn, They beat LSU and Baton Rouge. But the win against Missouri at home, Missouri's just an above-average basketball team. So Porter Moser with three straight wins, and they'll finish the season at Texas. I think Porter Moser will be back next year at Oklahoma to have one of those, okay, we're going to give you more money to build a roster. Now go get back to the NCAA tournament. Or else it was nice having you. Texas A&M beat Kentucky last night, 96-85. Speaking of rosters, Kentucky's paid $20 million for the roster. They'll be in the dance, but no one's happy in Lexington. Kentucky falls to 19-11 and 10-7 in league, and A&M is 10-7 in league as well. And Auburn last night at home beat LSU in a game. LSU's terrible. They've got injuries. Auburn has been wildly underachieving this year under first-year coach Stephen Pearl. And we've talked a lot about the Nepo baby at Auburn. So there's your drive around the SEC. We'll pop back in here, take a look at the lines and the wagering angles for tonight's games in the SEC, and we'll kind of get into that next here on the post-game show. Terry Ford, appreciate you hanging out with us on the Game Network, and at the Game TV Radio on YouTube. All right, do not forget about the Spring Golf Classic at Charwood, Friday, April 3rd. You want to get in? Just call Charwood, 803-755-2000, press 2 to register. So what do you got going on there, Ford? Why should I go? Why should I bring out my clubs? What's the deal? Well, we'll have Saki's Morning Libations Bar, the classic onion sausage provided by the Lexington Gamecock Club, and the golf guns back. Again, 400 a team. Call Charwood, 803-755-2000, and press 2 to register. All right, time to fire up the old wagering music. Take a look at the lines. Give some thoughts. Number 20, Arkansas hosting Texas. Arkansas is giving Texas 6.5 in Fayetteville. I think Arkansas wins and covers the number. Hogs are phenomenal at home. Also in the top 25, number 22, Miami, a very under-the-radar story this year, are the Miami Hurricanes. They'll go to SMU. SMU is, in the ACC, in the words of my kids, has been mid, 8-8, 19-10, swimming around the bubble for the NCAA tournament. SMU a 1.5 favorite over Miami. The Canes, again, they have been playing really well. They've won 6 of their last 7, and they went on a heck of a heater, winning 10 in a row earlier this year. Their only loss in that 6 of 7 was at Virginia. I think Miami wins and covers as the road dog at SMU. St. Louis has been scuffling a bit lately. Still really good, 14-2 in the A-10, 26-3 overall, number 25 in the country. Loyola of Chicago is bad, just bad. 3-13 in the league, 7-22 overall. St. Louis, 20.5-point favorite, should cover the number and have a nice big win over the Loyola of Chicago at home. They might win by 120.5. Number 15, Purdue. They've hit a little bumpy patch here. You know when you're driving and all of a sudden you hit those cobblestones, everything in the car starts shaking, things start falling off the dashboard? That's been Purdue. They've lost 3 out of their last 4. They lost to Michigan, Michigan State, and Ohio State in Columbus. But the Michigan and Michigan State losses were at home. So tonight, Purdue will travel to Northwestern. Northwestern, they're not very good. 5-13 in the league, 13-16 overall. Purdue is giving Northwestern 11.5. I think Purdue gets themselves back together, goes to Northwestern, and smacks the Wildcats by more than 11.5. So Purdue will cover on the road. Baylor, they had to rebuild the whole team in the offseason. Tons of dudes went in the portal. Baylor this year, it has not been a typical Scott Drew season, 5-11 in the Big 12. Houston has been scuffling. They were number 1 at one point this year. They're playing really well. And now they've lost 3 straight for the first time in like 10 years almost. Don't get me wrong. They lost to ranked Iowa State, ranked Arizona, and ranked Kansas State. 2 of those 3 losses on the road. And then they bounced back and they beat Colorado after losing 3 in a row, and they crushed Colorado by 40 at home. They will crush Baylor at home, too. Baylor can hang out for a minute or two, but Houston, the wave of defense will be too much for Baylor. Houston will get in transition. They will win this game by more than 13.5. So I will take Houston at home to cover the number at 13.5. Today, again, a sad day for Gamecock football fans. Lou Holtz passing away at the age of 89 today. We had Langston Moore on with us just a few minutes ago, talking about his time playing for Lou. And, Lou Holtz, he was a funny guy. He was a magician. You know all the stories. Lou was here for all those years. And he was a funny guy. He was an introspective guy. Give you the, Langston said, those words of wisdom and those mottos that stick with you your whole life. And look, this is coaches, and I know we don't care anymore. And we just don't, because college football is such a business. We just care about wins and losses. That's all we care about. Let's just be fair. That's all we've ever cared about as fans. But there is a thing to coaches bettering and helping to mold and form the lives of young men. That's kind of part of the job, too. We all laugh about and roll our eyes and go, no, I don't care about you. Here's what I want you to mold, bro. Mold wins. To heck with the rest of that. But as you heard Langston, and I'm sure as we get other Gamecocks who played for Lou on in these next couple of days, as we honor Lou Holtz's time here at South Carolina and Lou Holtz's career in general, because he was very successful, also in other stops like Notre Dame, Arkansas, NC State. But also you get those stories of, bettering lives. That's what Langston said. Lou Holtz bettered my life. He helped make me the man I am today and helped teach me life lessons that I still carry with me. And sometimes as cornball as that sounds, it's true. I mean, Langston was talking about Lou talked with Langston when, his dad passed away. Those are things that we as fans don't think about or care about. But those are things that, when you're between 18 and 22 or 18 and 23, that stuff matters. That's why we always talk about these coaches. You go into that living room and you tell those parents or those, the people that are responsible for these kids that, here's what we're going to do for your son. If you actually follow through with it, it matters. It just does. And as successful as Lou was at coaching, it seems like when you talk to guys who played for Lou was also successful in doing that molding help mold players' lives. And that's just important. As these young college players go on to adulthood and fatherhood and husbandhood and all these other things they do, some of that stuff sticks and you start living it. Like I was kidding with Langston, you start to live those things. You might have made fun of him in the locker room or laughed about how Lou said it or whatever, but at the end of the day, it sticks. And all of a sudden, you start doing it when you get older, and you're like, "Oh my God, I'm doing the crap that Holtz told me I was going to do or I should do." Like I said, if you're a parent, and the minute you start sounding like your mom or dad, you walk out of the room and you go in the other room, going, "Oh my God, I'm becoming my parents." So again, Lou Holtz passing away at the age of 89. We tried to celebrate some of his life and career here in the last hour. We'll do more tomorrow. Absolutely, Preston Thorne, who played for Lou, part of the early game. You're going to hear a lot about Lou from Preston tomorrow morning as well, as we celebrate and honor the life of Lou Holtz here on the Game Network, and at the Game TV Radio. Enjoy your evening. Baseball 6:15, Carolina and Charleston Southern coming up.